for that. So want to get started today. Hello, my name is Tony Bramley and I'm Business Development Coordinator here at TMC. We really appreciate you guys coming in. This is TMC Connect. Today we have SLK Global Solutions, and they are going to talk about 5 ways to reduce quality control costs. See, I practiced this even. 5 ways to reduce the quality control costs and the risk with automation. Today we've got Zad Sharif with us. He is head of the solution design and product implementation, and we've got Anthony Galliano, who is vice president of mortgage solutions. So once again, thank you all so much for being here. And guys, I am going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Hey, everybody. My name is Zad Sharif, and as Tony mentioned, I'm the head of solution design and product implementation here at SLK Global. Today for the agenda, what we kind of have set up for you is, we're going to talk about how QC and compliance and how that arena has changed today, utilizing automation and how that can really help your organizations excel in today's kind of market change and everything that's going on in the in the market today. So we're going to talk about the business situation. So what are the impending challenges that the organization's facing today in maintaining an effective quality control program? What's the root cause of this challenge? What's impacting organizations from a time, effort, cost perspective? So, the cause and effect of what's going on. What the overall solution offering is, right? So we're talking automation. So the impact that automation has on the QC and compliance space, and how the 5 ways or the 5 factors to help kind of reduce that overall cost and risk. And then we have kind of a short demonstration to show how automation can play a role in that space. So we kind of have like a tagline that we're going to start off with to kind of help you kind of get in the tone or the mode or the mood of what we're going to be talking about today. So with increasing pressures and shifting market trends and regulatory compliance changes, financial organizations face a challenge in maintaining an intelligent and risk-free business environment. So
Zed, I know you said you wanted to kind of start with that tagline and talk a little bit about what it is, but when we're talking about some of those challenges, and we really started this off with the title of cost and how to reduce that cost and how important that is, but what are some of those challenges and how does cost become a factor in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of the individuals on the call today, I'm sure, come from that QC compliance background and also that mortgage background. And you guys know this has been a very, very hard couple of years in the mortgage space. It's been good, in a lot of places, but it's also been a struggle, especially for some of those QC compliance guys. And what I mean by that is, over this past pandemic, right, we've had so many different changes to our normal regulatory requirement, right? For instance, we talk about Reg X and all those different requirements that have come into place because we knew that individuals were going to have a harder time, homeowners were going to have a harder time making payments through these different changes that were occurring because of the pandemic. But also, because, so with that having come to fruition, we as compliance and QC analysts were required to make changes to our programs on the fly, right? And that can be a feat to its own if you're not utilizing technology, automation, and other tools to kind of help manage all those changes. We also had things shifting market trends on the origination. This has been, these past couple of years in the lending space, in the originations market, have been numbers we've never seen before, right? And the amount of refinances and the amount of loan originations that have taken place are second to none. And so managing the influx and ensuring compliance to those originations requirements has been a challenge, especially challenges that we've seen in our client base, Anthony. So that's when I talk about increased pressure, shifting markets. That's what I'm talking about here, right? Like there's been so many regulatory compliance changes and things that have come in play. And then in addition to that, we have, unprecedented number of originations that have happened and refinances that have happened. And so being able to stay on top of that has been a challenge, in ensuring that we're minimizing the overall risk to the organization has been a serious challenge. So this kind of segues into, here are my biggest issues. And the first thing we kind of touched upon was increased labor costs. So we're asked to do more and we're asked to do it with less, right? And so that's obviously the one of the major concerns, is doing more and still either holding flat on the budget or reducing your overall budget year over year. And so it's crunching the bottom line. And so that's definitely one of the biggest challenges we're faced with in the QC compliance arena. Time consuming and ineffective. So, as you guys know, there's a lot of regulatory compliance testing or QC testing that's required. It's important, it's mandated, but you know that it's time consuming, and sometimes we're super ineffective in how we manage that. And sample size limitations and visibility into what's going on, right? So the first part of that is, do we actually sample 100%? In most cases, we don't. We don't have the bandwidth to do it. And I know that with some of those automation techniques that we're going to talk about today, you can achieve 100% testing where your organization feels that they need it. But also with the ability to test 100%, you also get into this notion of, what's going on in your portfolio. You're digging deeper into your portfolio and you're getting visibility into the problem areas. And when you kind of put this all together, you're detecting errors that you haven't detected before, and you can actually make proactive decisions within your organization to ensure that you fix the issue, ensure it doesn't happen again, and make sure you're actually solving the problem at the end of the day. Just kind of sum it up. The issues are lack of efficiency, lack of accuracy, and lack of coverage. So we're trying to increase efficiency. We're trying to increase that efficiency. We're trying to ensure that you're either 100% accurate or you're really dang close, and then provide additional coverage in those areas. So I want to take a second here. The solution to all this and why we say automation. The title was 5 ways automation can help you reduce, your risk. Is, automation is your virtual one-stop shop that addresses your biggest QC and regulatory compliance needs with technology you need at your fingertips. And so what does that mean, right? There's so many various different automation techniques, and we're going to kind of bullet out some of these that can be utilized to help achieve those areas of concern. The first one I would want to talk about is automated digitization and ingestion. So technology like OCR, ICR, and APIs. This is where we're helping and allowing organizations to digitize some of those documents, digitize a lot of those documents so that you have the underlying data to perform some of those audits or QC tests. And we also work with APIs. So APIs, some of you may know, are ways of transferring data or running processes from one system to another. And so automation includes, tag on APIs that can help you ingest that digitized data, whether it be into your QC workflow management tool, whether it be into your overall GRC, and so forth. I'm going to talk about, rules-based automation testing. So similar to tools like, rule building workflow tools. So things like I'm able to perform a rule-based automated test for compliance checks, meaning I'm going to ensure that all the data on a document moved into the LOS, right? And then from the LOS, it was utilized correctly to execute on different other processes down the line. And so we can actually set up rule-based automation testing to ensure that those checks and balances are performed before next processes kick off. And so so there's tons of tools that, there's tools that have been built to help build rule-based automation. We'll talk about robotics integration. So tools today need to have a layer of robotics integration into them. So what that means is there are going to be areas where clicks need to happen, where documents need to be picked up and dropped, where recalculation needs to be performed. And so tools and workflows and technology needs to have the capabilities to have overlays for robotics. And so robotics can really help out, kind of mesh together maybe processes that are not free flowing or don't flow in one kind of chain. It can help kind of merge those and make them more free flowing and run in a chain. And then we have automated and smart workflow engines for streamlined auditing and active remediation. So we talk about automated workflows being those that know when trigger A happens, then trigger B needs to occur. And then when you've answered trigger B, trigger C needs to happen. And so you've built this automated workflow with contingent parameters that allows for free flow and automated workflow. So for instance, I've got a tester who gets in here and says, hey, I need to perform this compliance test. Let's take it as a HMDA test. And they're validating documentation to ensure origination's data is correct and accurate, and it's been correctly and accurately documented. And the workflow, instead of allowing the QC auditor to go in and have to read a checklist and go through every single question based on the actual question answers, right? It'll automatically flow that questionnaire to ensure, and it'll ensure reduction of time, effort, and so forth. And then the last piece to kind of this QC automation will be enhanced data analytics. So we have, tools and methodologies for AI and machine learning. So as you understand, when you've automated things and you've digitized things, as time moves forward and as you have historical data related to your test results, your findings, your remediation activities, what's going on in your portfolio, for instance, you can actually build on your machine learning and artificial intelligence to help you make smart business decisions, or even make automated business decisions to ensure you've kind of tweaked your buying practices, your loss mitigation practices, and so forth. So I'll pause there to see if anybody has any questions or comments.
No questions.
I really just wanted to say there that, so, we have all these things listed out from a QC automation. We talk about a one-stop shop, and there's all these things that you just kind of talked about, right? So from a QC automation perspective, are all of these individual parts required to work together? Can you kind of piece this out? Are there reasons that you would only need parts of this and not all of this? What does that look like?
That's a great question, Anthony. And the answer to that is, there's no, it's more of an a la carte type menu. So based on your organization's requirements, their needs, you can either integrate or implement all these types of automation technology, or you could pick and choose to say, hey, you know what, I really need to do digitization and rule-based automation testing, and I actually need some AI ML, but I really don't need a bot to do the work that I need. I've got guys who can go in and do the clicks and run the jobs and kind of perform an overall QC of the jobs being run. I don't need a bot to manage that. So I don't really want to invest the time and money that goes into doing robotics integration. So I can just pick and choose. So this is more of like an a la carte menu, but know that, you have the menu has everything on it, but you don't have to choose everything, right? So. Hearing no further questions, we'll kind of move forward. So 5 ways automation can help reduce quality control costs and risks. And so now we're going to kind of get into the 5 ways. The first is speed. And so speed is obviously an important topic to talk about with automation. We want to reduce the overall time that it takes to perform these tests. And that's where automation plays a big part, because we've seen 20 times faster, 100 times faster results when deploying automation for clients in our space. But we know that technology itself has provided capabilities, 100 times. And so speed is one of those things we're trying to achieve. We want to do things faster. And why it's super important is we do, in at least, in the clients I've seen, finding issues within our portfolio too late, right? Or it takes too long to get those results and then make decisions, and it slows down the process. And if you're thinking about a post QC, a check upon a process that happened, let's say a day ago or a week ago, that just needs to be reviewed to ensure there was no holes or gaps when we did process. Think about having those results quicker, right? Now having them within hours versus within days or within weeks of when that process actually occurred. And so speed is definitely a big focus when it comes to automation. We talked a little bit about sampling coverage, but sampling coverage is another way automation can help. We talk about full population, right, testing, whereas in most cases, the majority of organizations we see today perform minimal testing, right? I mean, we're talking some could be 1%, some could be less than 1% of their portfolio sizes. But even you get into you're chopping up the portfolio based on product type and so forth, and then you still chop down that sampling further. So if you think about it, overall sampling is very minor. But with automation, we're increasing that sampling coverage. So think about what comes to mind is, you're an organization servicing loans, and you buy a portfolio that you're transferring over. And think about doing a full-blown 100% QC at really fast speeds, ensuring that you've covered every little nook and cranny of that prior servicer portfolio that's coming into your organization, and ensuring that ensuring that they're good loans, that they don't have any underlying compliance issues, that there's certain flags that are supposed to be flagged that have been flagged, so that you don't have any underlying issues on your portfolio and so forth. So, sampling coverage, that is astronomical on the benefits that it could provide to your organization, to be able to test full population, to be able to provide assurances that, hey, you know what, I looked at every single loan in that prior servicer's portfolio, and I see 10% of them have these issues. So before we board them into our system, we need to make tweaks to the data or changes or perform activities prior to bringing that data and onboard it into our environment. And so that's kind of the benefits we'll see with automation on sampling coverage. Accuracy. How many times have we performed the test, taken it to the ops manager, and then it get rebutted, and there's some underlying accuracy issue with our test. And so there's those scenarios, and then how many times do we perform a test, find it either not to have an issue or have an issue, and then try to clean it up and then have another issue again. So there's redundant testing or recurrence of fails that happen. And so we want to ensure that when we're testing things, when we use automation and automation technology to set up tests, we want to ensure that that test is executing accurately 100% of the time. And we know that, when we're building rule-based automation, we're building in logic and algorithms into our testing, that it's not going to falter or fail. We have humans test, and we do make mistakes sometimes. And so we want to ensure that, when we're running these tests, that they're 100% accurate. This one's kind of an important topic. It may not, everyone may not agree to it, but I think automation really, at least in the mortgage space, and the financial industries space, automated regulatory updates. So I think this is super important when it comes to automation, because with this ever-changing market, with things that have been going on with the pandemic, with things that happen every day with all the different regulators and organizations that and entities that regulate us, this is super important. So imagine having a system or having technology that can not only flag when an update happens, but then also tell you what needs to change in your underlying testing practices, right? And then deactivate, make changes, and then push those changes into your overall QC or compliance testing program. And so that's what we're talking about here. And so that's where automation plays a big role, is, being able to design a framework which not only flags and automatically updates it, but ensures that you're not missing anything, and you don't have any gaps in compliance. And so to be able to not only have that internally to reduce your overall risk, but think about when you're going through some of these regulatory exams or reviews with these external entities, being able to showcase that, hey, I have a way of managing my overall compliance management system where I know all the regs and where they're documented and how they correlate to my policies and procedures. And then overall how that flows into my testing. But then in addition to that, how I perform my gap analysis. And hey, by the way, it's all automated and it's all backed by technology.
I had a question come in. Can you give us a few examples of specific tests that can be automated in the QC review?
Sure. So I actually have one that I'll be going over here shortly, but and I can definitely talk about it. So we have think about your disputes resolutions that you're going through. So many times now you have dispute resolutions that are happening in your organization, whether it be credit card disputes, whether it be my payment disputes, I had a late fee, a charge dispute. So when you have disputes, normally you have a QC function that happens after the fact, like, hey, disputes get handled, they're resolved, but let's QC and make sure that those disputes are handled and correctly assessed. And so there are interest calculations, there are late fee recalculations that are required. So being able to look at your population of dispute cases that came in, ensuring that the dispute was handled correctly, accurately, that interest was recalculated appropriately based on the data that's provided, will help, can help. That's kind of a use case. We've done testing around, let's talk about your consumer compliance testing. Let's talk about like payment processing, right? So being able to ensure that payments were posted appropriately. So I know there's some QC around, hey, was the waterfall appropriately applied? If there were delinquencies on the account or late fee charges, did we appropriately follow the waterfall, and was that payment applied appropriately? So we can do QCs around that. We can automate QCs around that, because we can, once we have the underlying payment register and we have the payment details, we can recalculate waterfalls. We can recalculate decisions that the processor made for the applied payment, right? And then ensure that it was done appropriately or not. Another example would be, we've done things around, if we look at regulatory compliance testing, so like a pre-funding QC, ensuring that all the data was correct, that all the document data matched, how all the data has gone into the LOS. Is that all accurate and complete based on the documents and the information provided by the borrower or the customer before it goes into kind of funding status, before the loan gets closed and so forth. So pre-funding type QCs can be automated. We deployed kind of that digitization up front where we do OCR and ICR, and we kind of pull that data out, ensure accuracy of that pull, and then build rule-based automation testing to say, hey, did the underlying data in the documents match the LOS? Is it complete and accurate? Did it come off the right document? There's no issues with that data. And then, okay, fine, it's good. Now let's move it to close, right? Or let's move it to fund. So those are a couple of examples of how, automation can be utilized for testing.
So Zach, can you talk just a little bit about, where a lot of these compliance rules are kind of drawn from? I mean, are these, when you talk about this kind of stuff, every lender has to follow the same things depending on what types of loans they are, whether they're, agency loans, government loans, if there's different things on there, CFPB stuff. Can you just talk a little bit about that? So when you're talking about this automation, where's that kind of mapping up to make sure that it's being followed properly?
Absolutely, Anthony. So there are a lot of vendors out there, whether it be in all regs, and there's a couple out there, and there's codexes, there's direct feeds to CFPB's ECFR and so forth. So what we do is, or what organizations like ours do, is we figure out ways to monitor and track changes that are coming from each of the regulators. So the regulators do have portals, websites, and so forth that are out there. And we've developed technologies, scripts, links, and so forth to kind of scrape what's going on in the market, ensuring that there are changes coming, and then how that will affect those automated regs or automated testing that we've developed for clients, or manage those changes in the system. And so they're actively being managed and monitored in an automated fashion. And then there's individuals, SMEs, representatives in the back end who are validating, ensuring that, hey, we make sure that we're looking at the right things. We're making sure if links change, have those links been updated. So there's a lot of maintenance that happens in the back end, but that's kind of where we're getting feeds. We're getting feeds directly from the source, right? Or directly from technology that we know has the appropriate source material. And the last piece of this is data analytics. And so, in the kind of the decade of, digitization and data analytics and deeper insights and root cause analysis, this is what we're talking about, is just that. And in this new time, we have automation plays a big role with this, because with automation, with digitization, with technology, we have access to so much data. We have access to what's being tested, how is it being tested, what do the test results look like? And when you tag on, data analytics to these automation feeds, it really makes a big change in what you're doing. And if you can tag on artificial intelligence, machine learning, trending analysis, forecasting, it's going to be a real big game changer, because you're not just finding issues in the market, issues in your portfolio, and you're not only making and just notifying the business that, hey, you have an issue, fix it, but you're notifying, hey, business, you have an issue and you've had this issue X amount of times, and it's by this one particular analyst, and maybe it's a training issue, but maybe there is actually an underlying fail in the process that's causing these issues. And so now we can pinpoint exact root cause analysis through analytics, but also we can actually make key business decisions now that we have access to what we're actually testing and having those deeper insights. So, think about making loan changes, making buying changes, making repurchase decisions, because you figured out, hey, we buy from vendor A and we're having so many issues with their loans, or their loans have a higher default rate down the line when we service them. let's kind of change our buying practices now, and maybe we'll have more profitability at the tail end. And so, a lot of individuals or a lot of organizations say, hey, QC compliance guys, that's just a mandate. They're always on my back and my case about failing things. But if we can actually employ data analytics into this with all the automation that we were talking about, we can actually help profitability to the bottom line on key business decisions for business centers that make revenue, right? Revenue generating business centers. And so that is kind of another a way that analytics and automation is a huge factor in kind of reducing the overall risk of the organization and reducing that cost. So I've got an example, and I kind of touched on this when we talked about how give us an example of how automation can work, things that we've done, things we've seen in the market. And on this particular case here that I'll kind of be walking through with you guys, and I think we'll have some time to kind of showcase this and then have good 5-10 minutes left over to kind of discuss any questions anybody may have. But so we have this dispute resolution case for process at the bank, and it's a bank with an asset size of around 170 billion. And it was processing 22,000 cases monthly for a QA on fees and interest. So this was specifically a dispute resolution QC. It was specifically designed for ensuring that any fees and interest related disputes that were handled in disposition, that there's a QA, because there's money going out the door. There's either money going out the door on this, or money being recollected, and so forth. So we wanted to ensure that that was being QA'd, that we could automate that QA appropriately. And so pre-automation, design of solution, that division cost around $360,000 a year. There was some business offshoring that was happening there. It deployed a handful of offshore and onshore professionals with the time it took. And it took around 6 minutes to manual QC each case. And so around, if we took around 20 cases to kind of do a POC on, to 20 cases to handle, it'd take around 2 hours in the current scenario, how we were handling it manually to be able to take. And so, with all that, we kind of deployed a few different things, right? So we digitized the data, right, that was coming in from the dispute, the calculations, the loan, the loan calculation, the payment register. So there's a lot of underlying data utilized to calculate those fees and interests, right, for that particular client that were required to be utilized to ensure that the dispute was handled correctly, right, when they were doing a recalculation of the fees and interest. And so that underlying data was pulled in, there was APIs built, was digitized if needed to be digitized. There was, so that was all brought in. There was rules that were built to ensure that the fees and interest were recalculated correctly. So we did recalculate waterfall calculations. We brought all that logic and algorithms into our underlying workflow. And then we built it into a QC workflow platform to help showcase that, hey, not only are you getting the underlying automation and the data flows and the ingestion, but you're getting a platform that's clear and concise and that can show you what rules are being run, what's being executed, where the fails are, how to push those fails into remediation, and then how to handle those fails with your QC and compliance analysts that will handle that fail once we know it's a true fail. And so that was all digitized and automated and helped significantly reduce the testing time from like 2 hours to 30 seconds. And so I know I got a plug slide in here that says, hey, let's see what we can do in under 30 seconds. And so we kind of built that case and did that for a bank to showcase that, hey, you've got this process that takes 2 hours to do a single case, and we can handle multiple cases now that we have underlying data ingested, and we can run those automated rules and give you test results within 30 seconds. And so I'm just going to take a second to switch over and showcase kind of that automation and some running execution of those rules and test results for you guys. Okay. Sorry, guys, bear with me 1 second. All the controls are everywhere. You guys see my screen? Anthony, you can see my screen, correct? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go into Audit Manager, and I'm going to be doing a review, or I'm going to be auditing this dispute resolutions QC. So this is a automation that we built through our Copsys platform. We built some rule-based automation tests for this dispute resolution QC. As you can see, we built around 9 major rules, and then each of these has dynamic sub rules that go into it. So, you know, we're validating if the customer name was correct, the address, the case number, ensuring that we're actually, you know, ensuring that we handled it correctly and accurately for the customer that it was said to be handled for, and then doing recalculations on those interest and fees to ensure that it was done correctly, and then disposition and paid out correctly. All the way to the kind of the payment register and the accounting piece of it. So I'm just gonna kind of show you the power we've built these rules. There's algorithms and automation that's been built, and I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the workflow. And so what's going on is, you know, through this rule-based automation that we built, now these rules, these automated rules are executing, the system's churning them based on the data that's been ingested. So it's ingesting data, it's running rules, and then it's going to produce test results. And so we just wanted to showcase kind of the power of automation and technology and what it can do. So this kind of ran in 19 seconds, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the results. And so through technology like this, you can now see, okay, I ran 20 cases, and I've got compliant and non-compliant cases, and I can go in and say, okay, can we kind of look at my non-compliance. I want deeper insights into non-compliance. I want to see what's actually running and not running, and, you know, what's broken and what's not broken. And so I can go in and kind of do some additional reviews. And what I wanted to show you is there's actually some visibility into the rules and things that are running. And so I want to showcase some of this. So as you can see, we have different, was the correct credit amount issued to the customer? So you can actually go in and see, you know, this was a fail, there was nothing, you know, the underlying data was left blank. So there's rules that would execute, and this is giving you insights into the compliance and non-compliance of the testing. And so I'm gonna pause there for any questions that anybody may have around kind of automation, things that we do as SLK, things that are in the market, things that can help you understand what technology is out there to help you kind of further along any QC or compliance objectives that some of the people on the call may have today.
I said we haven't received any except the one that we already addressed, so we are good to go.
Okay. Well, I'm a little ahead of schedule, but I don't necessarily have anything else to show. And if nobody has any questions, I just want to thank everybody for their time, and you know, thank TMC again for giving us the opportunity to kind of showcase some of the automation, talk about automation, some of the techniques that we're utilizing at our organization, some of the techniques that are out there today in the market.
Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, just the speed and the accuracy, making sure that everything that you have set up, and like you said, going back to, are you QCing the full, your full loan portfolio? Well, of course not, because unless you have automation, you're not able to do that. So that's certainly something that SLK allows for and sets up for. So that in itself is just an amazing thing that you guys are able to put forward for your clients. Excellent. Any other comments, questions? Don't see anything else. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time today. TMC Connect, once again, we will be providing the deck as well as a follow-up email tomorrow with the recording. So thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Zad. Thank you for the information. And to everyone who has joined us today, thank you so much for your time. Hope everybody has a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.